it going, everyone? As you can see, we're back with the Tesla, and in the last video, we reinstalled all the Airride stuff and components. So the bags, front and rear, the shocks in the rear. We also put the air tanks and the compressor back in and did all the wiring for that. Now, I was hoping that in the next video, we were just gonna be able to install the new subwoofers I have coming, the amplifier and stuff like that, and just get the car set up. But I don't think that they're gonna be here on time. So instead of waiting around for that, I am going to be finishing the install and then doing some little touch-ups to just kind of make it perfect, because it's never quite been that way. So first thing I'd like to do is actually wire in the Airride controller so that it's in the center console. There's a little door that you can slide forward and put things in. I would actually like it if you slide that door forward and the Airride controller sits on a mount, and then you can do what you need to and then close it up. I never really use that storage console anyways. It just gets filled with stuff. So if I can make a mount for the controller, I'd really like to have that put in there. The next thing I'd like to do is remake the decals that go on these quarter windows. I took them off just because I didn't want the decals on there when I sold the car. It just wouldn't have made sense. So I peeled those off. Now I'd like to re-put them back on. The main thing that we're gonna be doing, or that I want to do, is I wanna set the limit with the front airbags and with the rear shocks, so you can only air the car out so low, because there's no limit to how low this will go until it hits the ground. Basically, I wanna have it so that the wheel doesn't exactly go up under the fenders of the quarter panel, just so that it's right near them. I like it at the height that it's at currently, because it still looks good at basically any angle, even if you're looking at it directly head on. But when you have the car completely aired out, like crazy low, what happens is the wheel is like kind of hovercraft underneath the car. Just the way that the suspension geometry is, it adds a ton of camber really fast when you start getting it at that super low point. So I just want to get it set up so that I don't have to worry about going too low in an area or whatever. Even though this is my primary air out height, I just want to have set limitations on how low it will go. So with all that being said, I guess what we'll do now is I want to put the Airride controller in the console like I was saying. I tried looking up some videos on how people take that apart, and I couldn't really find anything. We're basically just gonna dig into it and see what we find. But I guess that's where we'll start off first. I always used to have the wire come through right here, and then I used to have the remote mounted here, and at one point I had it on the dash, but now that the wire's gonna come through on this side, in that hole we just drilled, we need to make sure to run the wire on this side of the car. As you guys just saw, we took all of the paneling off, took the rug out, drilled that hole. It took me a little bit to figure out exactly where I wanted to come through, just because there was so much stuff in the way. Drilled the hole, ran the wire through, and it actually looks really good. So now I got to wait until I can get the mount for the controller 3D printed, because there's a little stepped lip on these Teslas where you can put like, you know, like a coin insert or whatever, and I'm gonna change that out to hold the Airride controller. And what's cool is it's on like a little rail thing, you can push it forward, still access what's underneath the controller, and then when you're done, you can pull the controller back over the top of it. So right here are those grooves I'm talking about. I'll have a platform that goes from each side, and then you can slide it up underneath. And then when you want to get your controller back, you pull it back, it'll sit in this whole area, and then you'll just close this. Now that the wiring portion is done, and I got that all kind of tucked under everything in the interior and in that center console area, I thought that that was honestly going to take a lot more time than it ended up taking, which is a good thing, I guess. Now what we're going to do is get the car back on the lift, because it was only there a few short days ago, and we're gonna adjust the bump stops for all four corners of the Airride system. I don't want the car to go below a certain height limit that it currently is able to do. I want to set it just so that the wheel is very close to the fender, but I don't want it to get tucked up underneath it. Although the Airride controller, you can choose where you want the car to be. I still want to have a hard limit of where it can go. So if anything ever happens, I know that there's a mechanical limit to how far it can go. Because right now, if you take all the air out of the bags, the rocker panel, like side skirt thing, will lay right on the ground, and the front bumper portion will actually lay right on the ground. I've been messing with this for like 20 or 25 minutes now, and I haven't even done anything to it. So I already am not doing this on every single corner of the car. There's so many reasons that make this difficult that it's realistically just not worth it. Every single time you want to make an adjustment, you have to unhook the like lower control arm portion that the airbag bolts to. Then there's like a secondary connector arm. You have to undo that from the spindle. You have to pull the spindle out of those. You have to disconnect the sway bar end link, because that's connected to the airbag like strut body. And you can't just spin the airbag on the body to lengthen or shorten it like you can a coilover, because the air fitting would have to be rotating around the shock body that entire time, and with an airline you just can't do that. So if I was to take it all out, adjust it, put it back in, I'd have to bolt everything back up in the front end, then check it, oh, it's too much or not enough, take it all back out and keep doing that. It's just not worth it to me. I just quickly took the rear wheel off. I wanted to check and see how that rubber isolator was doing that I put in between the airbag and the chassis. On this side, it looks really well. It's evenly compressed. I noticed that the thunking still happens even through that rubber isolator. The passenger side is about the same way, so I'm gonna leave those for now. Those isolators are for the springs that are normally in this car, and they're not meant to go on top of the airbag, but it did end up working out. Like I said, the thunking, I still hear it a little bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as if there was nothing at all. So I'm gonna leave it for a little bit. I just wanted to check on it, make sure it was still good, make sure it wasn't knocking the bag out of alignment or anything, but I'm glad to see that that's good. Just to kind of catch you guys up to speed, we got the rear decals for the quarter windows done, and then you saw some clips of me playing around with this yellow film on the parking lights. It didn't stick out as much as I was hoping for it to. I wanted the yellow to be pretty vibrant, but the issue is the backside of the lenses on the parking lights are black. So when you put yellow over the front of it, you are still basically seeing the black. I have my Honda Civic's turn signals wrapped yellow, but they have a chrome background, so it makes them stick out. I was hoping I was gonna get the same effect on the Tesla, just so you'd have a little bit of yellow contrasting off the white. It didn't work out that way, so I ended up just peeling the film off. And yeah, so I don't know. Not super stoked with how the video went. The first part was really good because we got the controller mounted in the console and stuff, but then having the issues with having to pull the front bags in and out over and over and over again just to set the bump stop limit was more of a pain than it was gonna be worth for me. And that's gonna do it for this video. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I just got my delivery from FedEx probably 30 minutes ago for my 210s, my subwoofer box, and that 1200 watt amplifier. So we'll be replacing that 8-inch and that 350 watt amp in the next video, so stay tuned. I'm glad that I didn't end up putting that back in the car just to have to pull it back out. Yeah, definitely stoked to get the 210s in there and get everything all set up. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and I'll catch up with you guys later.